Welcome to Storytime with Sugar. Today we're reading The Monster Trap. Ogre! The car horn crowed loudly. Pop and his grandson Patty rode down the street. "Come on, move that bucket of bolts," Pop shouted at the car in front of him. A few moments later, they pulled up in front of Pop's shop. Patty was staying with Pop for a few days while his parents were away. He had never been to Pop's all by himself. Once inside, Patty's eyes darted everywhere. "Here we are, lad," said Pop. "Home sweet home." Patty was quiet. The place looked much darker than he remembered. That night after supper, Patty and Pop listened to the radio. "Good evening," said the announcer in a deep voice, "and welcome to Monster Radio Theater." Patty inched closer to Pop's side. In tonight's tale, a young fellow is lost in a mansion lit only by the moon and one flickering candle. Later at bedtime, Patty was afraid. "Pop," he said, "I think I hear the monster from the radio." "Don't you worry," said Pop. "That was just a story. There are no real monsters." Patty wasn't so sure. "That's what the monsters want you to think," he said. He tried to sleep, but the creaks and cracking sounds wouldn't let him. Finally, he woke up Pop. "I hear a monster," he said. "I just know it." Pop was quiet for a moment. "Hang on," he said. "I'll be right back." When Pop returned, his arms were full. "Your troubles are over," he explained. "This is a monster trap." Patty smiled. A monster trap was just what he needed. "What's in there?" he asked. "Surefire high-grade monster bait," Pop explained. "Limburger cheese and fruitcake." And sure enough, in the middle of the night, something came out and took a good look around. The next morning, Patty rushed downstairs, but the trap was empty. "It didn't work," he said. "Maybe that means there aren't any monsters," said Pop. Patty shook his head. "Or maybe," he said, "they're just too smart for this trap." "Well," said Pop, frowning, "then we'll just have to make a bigger, smarter trap." And he did just that. That night, the first monster got some company. When Patty woke up, he rushed downstairs again. The bigger, smarter monster trap was empty too. "Now what?" he asked. "That does it," said Pop. "Let's take care of these monsters once and for all." Pop worked all day long in the barn. He hammered and glued and stitched, and Patty handed him things when he asked. "You see," Pop explained, "the baffle snatch is connected to the flubber nut, and the snog muddle fits through the plim flaps. The monsters will be fooled by this for sure." It was dark before everything was done. "What do you think?" Pop asked Patty. Patty took a long look. "This will work," he said. "It has to." That night, Patty was almost asleep. Almost. Then he thought he heard a noise. He went to get Pop. "I heard something," said Patty. Pop rubbed his eyes. "It's probably just..." But then he stopped. He had heard a noise too. Hand in hand, Patty and Pop tiptoed downstairs. As Pop entered the barn, he froze in shock. 2 monsters were hanging from the monster trap, and more were on the way. "Get out of here, Patty," cried Pop. "Run for your life." But they couldn't get out. The monsters were everywhere. Surprisingly, though, the monsters just ignored them. They climbed and jumped and slid everywhere, whooping and hollering with delight. Patty couldn't help laughing at the good time the monsters were having. After a while, he decided to join them. Later, Pop whipped up a monster feast, and everyone dug right in. That was the end of the monster troubles at Pop's. But Patty still had problems sleeping at night.